Okay, Chevra, let's get started. Bezat Hashem. Today in Masechet Megilla, we're holding on Vav Amud Bet. We're going to start V'amar R Yitzchak im Yomar Lecha Adam. This is one of the most famous statements in Shas, and one of the most also very powerful statement. Amar R Yitzchak. It's the Vav Amud Bet, about 6 lines from the top of the page. Seven lines from the top of the page. Amar R Yitzchak im Yomar Lecha Adam. We're going to continue on with a series of these meimras of R Yitzchak, and in the second section, which we'll get to, is going to, the new Mishnah, is going to introduce a new sugya in this Masechta, which are the Ein Bains. They're the Mishnayot in this Masechta that discuss the differences between two things. We start with the difference between Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni. Actually, this year we have two Adarim, wow. Yeah. So this is going to be very relatable to what we're about to get into. Actually, we just now, next Friday, it's coming up soon, we're going to start Adar Rishon, Bezat Hashem, and we'll see when do we do the mitzvot, Mikra Megilla, when do we do these things, which Adar do we actually do them. So Bezat Hashem, let's get started. V'amar R Yitzchak, everybody look inside. V'amar R Yitzchak, says the Gemara. R Yitzchak says, if a person tells you, Yagati velo matzati, I put effort and I did not find success, al ta'amen, do not believe him. It's not true. Lo yagati umatzati, now if a person says, I did not put effort and I found success, al ta'amen, don't believe him. Yagati umatzati ta'amen, but if he says, I put effort and I did find success, ta'amen, you should trust him. But the Gemara says the qualification is, Hani mili b'divrei Torah. This is when it comes to the words of Torah, Torah study. So there, the effort you put in will reflect the success you have after. When it comes to business, Hashem gives you support from Shamayim, meaning that there are some people who could put a lot of effort and they still don't find success. That's just the reality in business.
This is just to learn Torah.
Learning Torah, exactly. Or the divrei Torah, and even within learning Torah, there's different kinds. Lo amaran el lechidude. This is true. Chidude is like iyun. It's like to sharpen, to get things clear. So there, the amount of effort. Excuse me. The amount of effort you put in, much better. The amount of effort you put in will reflect the outcome. Avala ukme girsa, but to ukme girsa means to remember, to review something many times so that it remains in your head. To remember it. That's yata min shemayahi, that's from Hashem. Meaning some people have a better memory, and some people have not as good of a memory. So that's a gift. You have, you don't have. Now, somebody doesn't have as good of a memory, so you have to work harder in order to remember. You review it more times. That's a different story. But the point is, generally this idea of effort reflecting outcome is in Torah study. Business, you find some people that they invest a lot of work and they're not successful. Okay, why Hashem has his cheshbonot? I don't know. R Yitzchak continues. If you see a wicked person, literally it means the hour is smiling on him, but it means that he is having success in this world. Okay, you see a wicked person who's succeeding, al titgarebo, do not start up with him. Shene'emar means don't fight with him. Don't get involved with him. It's not a good idea. Shene'emar, like the pasuk in Tehillim tells us, al titchar b'mereim, don't fight with the wicked. V'lo od, and not only that, ela shedrachav matzlichin. Somebody who's like this, a wicked person who's experiencing success, his ways will continue to be successful. Shene'emar, like it says in Tehillim, yachilu derachav b'chol et. His ways are successful all the time. V'lo od, and not only that, ela shezoche b'din, that in court he's going to be successful also. Shene'emar, like the pasuk says, Maro mishpatecha minegdo. Elevated will be your court, your cases, minegdo, opposite him. Means the Rasha. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. The Rasha, who is experiencing success, he's going to have great success in this world. So don't start up with him, because if you do, you'll lose. V'lo od, and not only that, ela shero'eh b'sonav, he'll see his enemies falling in front of him. Shene'emar, like the pasuk says, Kol tzorarav yafiach bahem, all of his enemies, he will blow them away. Literally, he'll just blow them, they're going to fall away. He's going to have great success.
That's the guy that is
wicked, Rasha, wicked person, exactly.
Wow.
Right, this probably comes from the idea of Hashem giving sechar to the wicked in this world. But the point is, you should not start up with him. That's what the Gemara R Yitzchak is saying. Heini, so the Gemara says, is that true? Do you not start up with wicked people? Zavav Modbet, 6b. It's about halfway down the page now.
Thank you.
V'amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Yochai, but Rabbi Yochanan said in Rabbi ben Yochai, muter li'etkarot b'rashaim b'olam hazeh. It is permitted to start up with wicked people in this world. Shnei Amar, like it says in Mishlei, ozvei Torah yahalu resha. Those who leave the Torah, those who move away from the Torah, they praise the wicked people. V'shomrei Torah, and those people who guard the Torah, yitgaru bam, they will start up with wicked people. So you see, the pasuk seems to say in Mishlei that you should start up with wicked people. V'tanya, and furthermore, Braita says, Rabbi Dustai bar Maton Amar, mutar litkarot b'rashaim b'olam hazeh. It's permitted to start up with wicked people in this world. Ve'im lachshecha adam lomar, and if a person will whisper to you saying, he'll challenge this and he'll say, it says, al titcha b'merayim ve'al tekaneh b'osei avala. It says, don't start up with the wicked people, and don't, literally it would mean, follow or don't compete with them, with those people who do iniquity, bad things. So the Gemara says that's not that you shouldn't start up with them, but rather mishali bonokfo marken. Rashi explains is somebody who has averot, and he's worried that if I start up with the wicked people, I'm not going to be successful. Because of my own sins, Hashem's not going to allow me to overcome the Rasha. That's why somebody might say that. But really, if you don't have that issue, you could start up with them. Elo rather, but what's the pshat in that pasuk? Al titchar b'merayim. It doesn't mean don't start up with the wicked people. Lehiyot kimerayim. Don't compete with them. It means don't look what they're doing and follow in their ways. Don't be jealous of those who do wicked things. Lehiyot k'osei avala, which means to be like them. It doesn't mean you can't start up with them, though. You could start up with them actually. So asks Omer, and furthermore, the pasuk says, Al yakaneh libcha b'chatayim begomer. It says your heart shouldn't be jealous of sinners, etc. It means you shouldn't follow in their ways. So asks the Gemara, first you're saying you shouldn't start up, and now it seems to be Yochanan, and then all these meimras that we just quoted seem to say you could start up with wicked people in this world. So the Gemara says a few answers. Sometimes you could, and sometimes you can't. What's the difference? Lo kasha. Ha b'mili didei, ha b'mili dishmaya. When it comes to personal matters, if you have some personal issue with a Rasha, don't start up with him. Not a good idea. Stay away from him. Okay. Ha b'mili dishmaya. When it comes to matters of heaven, shamayim. Right, the Rasha is doing something in the city that's causing problems for Torah and mitzvot. There you should start up with him. That's the difference, number one. The Ibaitema, second answer. Hava haba militide. Really, both meimrot, both statements are with personal matters. If it's a perfect tzaddik, he could start up with the wicked person. If it's not a perfect tzaddik, he shouldn't start up, because there, he's not afforded such protection. The Amar Rav Huna, like Rav Huna explains the pasuk in Chabakuk, it says, it says in Chabakuk, Lama tabit bogdim. Why do you see the treacherous or the rebellious ones, talking to Hashem? Hashem, you see the wicked people, tacharish, and you're quiet. Bevala rasha tzadik mimenu. When the wicked person swallows up or destroys, tzadik mimenu. A tzadik who's more righteous than him. It doesn't say a tzadik, gamur. It says tzadik who's more righteous than him. Tzadik mimenu bolea. So the Gemara expounds, it means that a Rasha could have the capacity to destroy someone who's only more righteous than him. But Tzadik gamur eino bolea. A totally pure Tzadik, a complete Tzadik, the Rasha doesn't have any power over. So if he's a Tzadik gamur, he could start up with the wicked. If he's not, he shouldn't. The Iba Itema, final answer. The Gemara says the difference is if the wicked person is experiencing success, then you should not start up with him. But a Stam Rasha, you could start up with him, that's not a problem. Okay, let's continue. Ba'amar Ula. Now this is a final meimra really, just regarding Agadat, we were speaking about Rome. So the Gemara now tells us a meimra about a place that was called Italya shel Yavan. Italya sounds like Italy. Rashi here says that this was a city that was established in the water when Menashe was one of the wicked kings, put a Avodah Zarah in the Heichal, in the Beit HaMikdash. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Malach Gavriel, one of the angels came and put a kaneh, a reed, it's like a stick, in the water, and all kinds of sand and things built up on top of that, and that ultimately was Italya shel Yavan. It's brought down. It's interesting, Rashi points that out here. But either way, we're going to speak about the great wealth of this Italya shel Yavan, which was Rishaim. They were in the city of Rome, and hedonistic and all of that. And the Maharsha says the reason we even talk about this here is to tell you if that's what wicked people experience, that kind of greatness and success. So it's supposed to tell you for those who are osei ritzono, people that keep the Torah and mitzvot, how much more so are they going to experience ultimately sachar. That's why we learn these more in olam haba. That's why we learn these meimrot all together. Agaritas. So Amar Ula says like this: Italya shel Yavan. It's the first middle line on the page. Italya shel Yavan. This city of Italia of Yavan. Ze krach gadol shel Romi. It is a big city or a big town of Rome. V'havya tlat mea parsa al tlat mea parsa. It's 300 parsa by 300 parsa. V'yesh b'shesa shvakim. And there's 365 marketplaces in Italia. Kiminyan yemot hachama, like the days of the year. V'katan shebekulam, the smallest of the markets. Shel mochei ofot is the places where they sell birds, poultry, chicken. V'havya shisha samil shisha sarmil, which is 16 mil by 16 mil. The king of Rome, Caesar, he has a party every day in one of these cities or one of these markets. Now, if somebody lives in that area, even if he wasn't born there, he takes a portion of food, like a giveaway bag. He takes something from the house of the king. And somebody that was born in that area, even though he wasn't living there now, I assume he was born there, but he doesn't live there, right? Again, he takes food from the king as well. But there's 3,000 bathhouses in this Italia, showing their wealth. And 500 windows bring the smoke and the steam. They used to have fires boiling up the waters, so it would create a lot of smoke, which would blacken the walls. So they had 500 windows above the walls that would bring that smoke outside, outside of the wall, so it wouldn't blacken the walls. One side of this Italia was the sea. One side was the mountains and the hills. One was an iron wall. And one side was pebbles and swampy area. So again, like I said, the Maharsha says the reason we learn this is to show if that's what the Ovrei Ritzono experience, the people that transgress Torah, so alachat kama v'kama, those who keep Hashem's Ratzon, they'll experience even more sechar in Olam Haba, perhaps, yeah. All right, let's see the Mishnah. Now we're going to get into this next section now, which deals with this idea. Really, this is the introduction of a new section of the Masechta, which is called the Ein Bains. We're going to contrast two items that are similar and show the differences between them in halacha. So we start off, as it relates to Purim, with Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni. Now we know today we have a calendar, so it's established that this year was going to be Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni. Used to be that they would sanctify the new moon based on sight of the new moon. And in addition, Beit Din had the koach, they had the ability to create a leap year if necessary. And there were many reasons why they would potentially do that. So the scenario we're going to deal with is as follows. Adar Rishon, it's upon us. The 14th of Adar Rishon passes by, they read Megilla, they did the mitzvot, beautiful. And then it was the 15th of Adar, the 16th of Adar, and Beit Din decided we need Adar Sheni. So they already read Megillah, they did the mitzvot in Adar Rishon. But now you have Adar Sheni. So what needs to be redone in Adar Sheni? That's really going to be the discussion here. And this gets down to is, what is the difference fundamentally between Rishon and Sheni in halacha? What is the real one in terms of halacha, essentially? So let's see. The Mishnah tells us as follows. Karu et Megillah ba'Adar Rishon. If they read the Megillah in the first Adar, vinit abra shana, and then it became a leap year, means the Beit Din, they made it extra month, they intercalated the year. So korino ta ba'Adar Sheni, you would have to read it again in Adar Sheni, because the real month of Adar, as the Mishnah says, is Adar Sheni. Adar Rishon is extra, and therefore you weren't Yotzei, you have to do it again. And the Mishnah finishes off, Ein bein Adar Rishon la'Adar Sheni ala kriyat Megillah matanot le'evyonim. The only difference between the first and second Adar is reading the Megillah and matanot le'evyonim. Now, it specifically highlights those two mitzvot. So I would suggest, what about the other of Seudah and Mishloach Manot? We already learned before, those have to be done in their time. So it would appear It's pashut, those have to be done in the second Adar. The chidush is, even if you did these earlier in the first Adar, you have to redo them again in the second Adar. That would appear to be the logical conclusion. Says the Gemara, the fact that our Mishnah goes out of its way to say that you would have to do Mikra Megillah and Matanot Le'Evyonim in the second Adar, that would imply that the other mitzvot of the month don't have to be repeated. And what are the other mitzvot of the month of Adar, not actually on the day of Purim? What are the other mitzvot? There is a special mitzvah of the Arba Parshiot. What is that? There are 4 special parshiot. We're actually going to start coming up soon, that we read around this time. Adar, Nisan, we read around this time. We have Shkalim, Zachor, Para, and Achodesh. These are the 4 parshiot. So the Mishnah says you have to redo Mikra Megillah and Matanot Le'Evyonim. But that implies, if you would have already done the Arba Parshiot, you don't redo them. Which implies that that does not have to be done in Adar Sheni. So that's the diuk, the Gemara says. This would imply, regarding those 4 parshiot, they're the same. Meaning you could do it in the first month and you're yotzeh. Based on that, the Gemara says we have 3 Tanaim that discuss this, but they all don't seem to conform to this opinion that we just concluded. That Mikra Megillah and Matanot Le'Evyonim have to be repeated. They have to be done in Adar Sheni. And the Arba Parshiot, they could be done in Adar Rishon. So Mani not Matnitin. Who's the author of our Mishnah? Lo Tanakama, v'lo Rav Eliezer Rav Yossi, v'lo Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. It does not seem to conform with any of the 3 Tanaim as we're about to lay out. The Tanya, as the Braita teaches, Karu et Megillah ba'Adar Rishon. So let's see the 3 opinions, and then we'll explain them. Karu et Megillah ba'Adar Rishon min ta'abra shana. If a person read the Megillah on the first Adar, and then it became a leap year, so now there's a second Adar. Korin ota ba'Adar Sheni, so you have to read it on Adar Sheni. Shekol mitzvot shenoagot b'sheni, because any of the mitzvot that are applicable in the second one, noagot b'rishon, could be done in the first one, chutz mi mikra megillah. So Tanakama says, besides for mikra megillah, the only one that has to be uniquely done in the second one, says Tanakama, is mikra megillah. The other ones could be done in the first one. This is Tanakama's opinion. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi says, "In korinata ba'adar sheni, you don't have to read it again in the second Adar. Shekol mitzvot shenoagot b'sheni, noagot b'rishon." So Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi says, no. If you read it in the first Adar, you're yotzeh. You don't have to do it again in the second Adar. But that's clearly not like our Mishnah, right? That's clearly not the opinion of our Mishnah, right? Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Mishum Rabbi Yossi. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, name Rabbi Yossi. Af korinota ba'adar sheni. You will have to repeat the Megillah in the second Adar. Shekol mitzvot shenoagot b'sheni ein noagot b'rishon, because all of the mitzvot of the second Adar are not applicable in the first. Have to be done in the second one. And the Braita says, V'shavin behesbiru v'ta'anit, but all 3 opinions agree regarding eulogies and fast days, which are not allowed to be done on Yamim Tovim, sha'asurin bazeh bazeh, that it's not only prohibited in the second Purim, but it also is prohibited in 14th of Adar Rishon. It's considered like Purim Katan, it's considered a minor holiday, so you're not allowed to do those sad things. So first the Gemara just wants to know, Tanakama and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel seem to be saying the same thing, that you have to repeat Mikra Megillah. So what's the difference between them? So let's clarify first. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel and Tanakama, what's the difference between these 2 Tanaim? So Amar Rav Papa, Seder Parshiot Ika Beinayu. The difference between them would be reading the 4 Parshiot. Like you said, again, these 4 Parshiot, Shkalim, Zachor, etc. The Tanakama Savar, the first opinion of the Braita holds, Lechatchila Basheni. Ideally, you should read these 4 Parshiot in the second Adar. V'i Avud Barishon, if you read them in the first Adar, Avud, it's effective. Bar mi Mikra Megillah, the Afal Gav the Karu Barishon, Karu Basheni. Besides for Mikra Megillah, if you read it in the first, you have to repeat it in the second. So it would come out according to the Tanakama, the only thing that needs to be redone in the second, Mikra Megillah. Everything else, including Arba Parshiot, you're yotzei in the first. At least b'diavad, you're yotzei. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi Savar, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi holds afilu Mikra Megillah l'chatchila barishon, that even Mikra Megillah l'chatchila could be done in the first Adar. You're yotzei in the first Adar, you don't have to repeat it in the second Adar. Okay? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Savar, in the third opinion, the right Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel holds afilu seder parshiot, even regarding the 4 parshiot, I karu barishon karu basheni, you would not be yotzei in the first, you'd have to repeat it in the second, and therefore you would have to repeat Mikra Megillah and 4 parshiot in the second. So now we understand the 3 shitot. So Mani, says the Gemara, who will be the author of our Mishnah? Tanakama, if you say it's the first opinion of the Braita, Kashya matanot. Tanna Kama only said you have to repeat Mikra Megillah. He did not say you have to repeat matanot le'evyonim. But in our Mishnah we said you have to repeat Mikra Megillah and matanot le'evyonim. Rabbi Yossi, and if it's the second opinion, Kashinami Mikra Megillah, he said you don't have to repeat Mikra Megillah. Our Mishnah says you do have to repeat Mikra Megillah in the second Adar, so it can't be his opinion. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, it's the third opinion of the Braita, Kasha Seder Parshiot. So then it's difficult based on the order of Parshiot, because he said you'd have to redo the order of Parshiot in the second Adar, but we implied from our Mishnah, you're Yotzei in the first Adar for those 4 Parshiot. So the Gemara gives a couple answers. Let's see. The Olam Tanna Kama, really the author of our Mishnah could be Tanna Kama. The Tanna Kama only said you have to repeat Mikra Megillah in the second Adar. He didn't say Matanot le'evyonim. Why didn't he say Matanot le'evyonim? The Tana Mikra Megillah v'hu adin Matanot le'evyonim. But when he said Mikra Megillah is to be repeated, he also meant you have to repeat Matanot le'evyonim. Why? Tahaba Italya, because they're contingent on each other. Why are these 2 mitzvot contingent on each other? So we learned earlier, Rav Yosef says the reason you can't read Mikra Megillah on Shabbat is because Eneyem Aniyim Nisuot b'Mikra Megillah. They anticipate, the poor people anticipate Matanot le'evyonim. So therefore these mitzvot are contingent on each other, and therefore when Tanna Kama said you repeat Mikra Megillah, he meant you also repeat Matanot le'evyonim. So that's the first answer, it's Tanna Kama. The Iba alternative answer, L'olam Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Really it could be our Mishnah is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. We were medayik, we implied from our Mishnah that you would not have to repeat the 4 Parshiot. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says you do have to repeat them in the second Adar. So the Gemara says you're implying from our Mishnah the wrong way. This is how you would have to amend and reread our Mishnah. Like this. Don't imply that we're contrasting the months, but rather we're contrasting the day. And therefore we're not talking about Arba Parshiot in the Mishnah. Like this. Ein bein Arba Asar Sheba Adar Rishon L'Arba Asar Sheba Adar Sheni. There's no difference between the 14th of Adar Rishon to the 14th of Adar Sheni. Ela Mikra Megillah Matanot. The only difference is you'd have to do Mikra Megillah and Matanot in the second one. Hale enyan hesped v'ta'anit, and this is the diuk you could say. But regarding eulogies and fasting, zeh v'zeh shavin, they're the same. Meaning you can't do it on either. Ve'ilu seder parshiot lo mayri. We're not talking about the order of parshiot. But you're right, like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel said, perhaps that could only be done in the second Adar, because you can't imply from our Mishnah that could also be done in the first. Good. But bottom line, what emerges now, which we'll just finish off with this last point now, what emerges is we have a machloket between Rabbi Yossi and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. If you did Mikra Megillah in the first Adar, you have to repeat it again in the second. Rabbi Yossi says you don't, and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says you do. So the Gemara wants to know now, what is the basis of this machloket? So let's see. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Avin, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Hilcheta ke Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, she'amar mishum Rabbi Yossi, who said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, meaning that you would have to redo Mikra Megillah in the second Adar, and redo Arba Parshiot in the second Adar as well. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, V'shnei Mikra echad darshu. They both get their shita. Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yossi, who says you could do it l'chatchila in the first, and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says you do it in the second. They both get their shita V'shnei Mikra echad darshu from the same verse. Because the verse in Megillah tells us, B'chol shana v'shana. We had a similar drasha before. But B'chol shana v'shana means there is a standard of every year. Every year is the same. So what is the standard that we're emphasizing? Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yossi Savar B'chol shana v'shana Makol shana v'shana Adar samuch l'Shvat. Usually, when do you read the Megillah? When do you keep Purim? The Adar that is after Shvat. Right? In the Jewish months we have Shvat and then Adar. So usually Purim is kept in the month that's after Shvat, because usually there's one Adar and it follows Shvat. So therefore, says Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yossi, Afkan Adar samuch l'Shvat. You keep it in the first Adar because that's the Adar that's next to Shvat. Oh. Shimon Gamliel savar b'chol shana v'shana makol shana v'shana Adar samuch l'Nisan. Usually Adar is before Nisan. So Afkan Adar samuch l'Nisan, and therefore it should be done in Adar Sheni, says Shimon Gamliel. So the Gemara says, okay, I understand, you could go either way on that issue, but what's the underlying logic? Why would you? So Bishlam Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yossi Mistaber Tama. I understand Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yossi. Do it the first opportunity. Why? To aid ma'afirin ala mitzvot, because you don't want to pass over mitzvot. So if you have 2 drashot, it's more logical say Adar Rishon near Shvat, because it's the first opportunity to do a mitzvah. Fine. Elder Rav Shimon ben Gamliel my time. But why does Rav Shimon ben Gamliel say near Nisan? Why does he say the second time? So Rabbi Tavi, time of Shimon Gamliel, mismach geula legeula adif. We want to juxtapose, to put the time of miracles, of Geula, of redemption, near the other time of miracles. So Nisan, we know, is the time of Geulat Mitzrayim. So we want to put the Nikra Megillah in the Adar, which is the Geula from the days of Haman, days of Purim, next to that, which is Adar Sheni. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer says another reason of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Time of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Mehacha, he has a source in the Pasuk actually, why you would do it in the second Adar. Because the Pasuk says, it says, L'kayem et ha'igeret ha'purim hazot ha'shenit. It says in Megillah, to fulfill the letter of Purim, the second one. The second one. So what's the second one? What does that mean? The emphasis we're saying is if you have two options, Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni, so that's where Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is coming from. He's saying that you would do it in the second one, Hashenit. Now really it's taking the Pasuk out of simple context. We're going to see Rabbi Yossi learns the Pasuk in the simple pshat. But he's learning Shenit means do it in the second month of Adar, not the first. But the Gemara says, V'itzterech l'michtav, turning to Zayin Amud Aleph, Hashenit, V'itzterech l'michtav b'chol shana v'shana. We need both of these sources for Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The verse of Hashenit, and we need the verse of b'chol shana v'shana. De'imi b'chol shana v'shana, if we only had the verse of every year, that there's this standardization, I would have said Kikoshyan, like your challenge, which is, maybe the standard is near Shvat, which means it should be the first Adar, not the second Adar. So Kamash Malan Hashenit. Therefore the Pasuk says, no, it's the second one. We only had the verse Hashenit. Hava Amina, I would have thought Betchila Barishon Uva Sheni. Maybe you keep Purim both in the first and in the second. Maybe you keep it twice. So Kamash Malan Bechol Shana V'Shana teaches there's a standard. Every year you keep it once. So also this year you keep it once, meaning in the second opportunity, which is Adar Sheni. Final question. Rabbi Eliezer bar Yossi, Hashenit mayavid le. So what does Rabbi Eliezer bar Yossi learn from Hashenit? Because he holds you do Purim in the first Adar. So what would he do with Hashenit? So he says a simple pshat actually. B'tchila kavua b'Shushan. Originally, they established Purim in Shushan because Shushan was the seat of the miracle, and Shenit is to say, and then they made another enactment to put it on the rest of the Jewish people. And then afterwards, they established it in the rest of the world. Shenit, the second command, or the second letters, was to establish it in the rest of the world. That's what Rabbi Yossi will learn from the verse. We'll stop here. Stop with Zayin Amud Aleph. Pick up with Zayin Amud Aleph tomorrow. Wonderful day.